Chapter 49, Blood and Tears, 4. Lim Yiwa rushed to the guest hall in surprise when she heard that Song Warren had come to visit. Indeed, Song Warren was waiting there. "Rina, what brings you here? Have you been well? Oh my, what should I do? Our Dan isn't home. I came to see you today, mother." "Me? Why me?" "Well, let's sit down and talk." As the two sat facing each other at the table, a maid soon brought tea. Lim Yiwa silently looked at Song Warren's face. There was still some swelling left. "I'm sorry." "No, I came to apologize to you instead." "You? I know you parents are worried because of our problems. I'm truly sorry for causing you concern." Lim Yiwa thought it was a bit unexpected. Apart from her fondness for Song Warren and her desire to have her as a daughter-in-law, she had thought Song Warren had a somewhat aloof personality. She didn't expect her to come like this and say such things. She had just thought, well, I hope the two of them live well together. So it was surprising that she came and said such things. "What happened?" Song Warren smiled slightly and said, "Dan said he came to his senses after getting beaten up. I think I've grown up a bit too after getting hit." "Ha ha ha." Lim Yiwa laughed pleasantly. She could sense that Song Warren was going through a period of change. In fact, Song Warren had hesitated several times before coming here today. She even came to the door and was about to turn back. But she didn't. Regardless of the marriage issue with Byok Ri Dan, she felt she needed to tell Lim Yiwa that she was okay. Because she must be worried. Perhaps she realized that her desire to change wasn't just a desire, but that she was in the process of making it a reality. "Rina." "Yes." Lim Yiwa wanted to say this to Song Warren. "It's okay to go slowly. It's okay to go slowly while seeing everything you want to see and doing everything you want to do. You might sometimes take the wrong path. But that's okay too. Because that's the right that only you young people can have." Lim Yiwa recalled her youth after a long time. She missed that time that had passed as quickly as a flying dagger. Back then, even if someone advised her to go slowly like this, she only felt impatient. Rather, she wanted to grow old quickly. Because she expected something great to be waiting beyond that age. Seeing Lim Yiwa's eyes turn slightly red, Song Warren calmly said, "Would it be okay if I visit occasionally?" Lim Yiwa came closer and whispered softly in her ear, "You can come live in our house starting today if you'd like." Lim Yiwa laughed loudly as she saw Song Warren blushing and flustered. Song Warren thought she had done well in coming today. Suddenly, Byok Ri Dan's face flashed in her mind, but she quickly shook him off. "Shall we have another cup of tea?" Song Warren answered with a bright smile that matched the pleasant question. "Yes." Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The next dawn, Flower Fan Elder walked into the bamboo forest. Although he walked leisurely as if enjoying a stroll, he arrived at the appointed place at exactly the same time as yesterday. The subordinate he met daily was standing with his back turned, looking at the bamboo forest. Flower Fan Elder walked towards him and asked, "What are you looking at so intently?" It was when he took a few more steps closer. At that moment when Flower Fan Elder's footsteps stopped abruptly due to an inexplicable sense of discomfort. Shwak! The man who had been showing his back turned around like lightning and threw a dagger. Flower Fan Elder twisted his body sideways and avoided the attack. But he wouldn't have time to feel the joy of avoiding the surprise attack. Because I was rushing in as fast as light. Swish! The heavenly creation sword cut through the air, aiming for Flower Fan Elder's heart. Clang! Flower Fan Elder swung his fan to deflect my sword. The power of the fan imbued with internal energy was tremendous. He must have blocked many attacks with this one move until now. Most swords would have broken, stronger ones would have been lost grip of, and against truly strong opponents, the sword would have been deflected and gone far off course. But my sword didn't fall into any of those categories. It changed direction slightly to the side but still pushed straight in. Swish! Flower Fan Elder's shoulder split open and blood splattered. Whoosh! Without even having time to check his shoulder, Flower Fan Elder violently swung his fan and bounced back as if repelled. If I had followed the momentum, I should have pursued, but I didn't. He seemed to be floundering, but there was discipline in his retreating footwork. A trap. It was a technique to draw in the enemy in a moment of crisis. If I had thought it was an opportunity and followed, I would have been properly counterattacked. Flower Fan Elder, who had stopped about 10 steps away, quickly pressed his acupoint to stop the bleeding on his shoulder. Who are you? We met yesterday. Have you already forgotten? We've been meeting here every day. I was wearing the clothes of the man I killed yesterday. I thought I would obviously be caught. I just hoped he would come close enough for a surprise attack to work. Fortunately, it succeeded, and I managed to cut his shoulder. Of course, I was confident I could win even in a direct confrontation. But there was no need to take unnecessary risks. He wasn't worth that much. It would have been best if I had killed him with that one surprise attack just now. He must be dead then. You'll die too. It seemed like a situation where we would normally exchange more words. But I launched an attack, catching him off guard. The most important thing in a fight between masters is to take the initiative. If you lose the initiative, you end up being led by your opponent and eventually meet your last move in a dead end. I started to press him. Pressing doesn't mean attacking as fast and as much as possible unconditionally. Taking the initiative means launching attacks that must be blocked one after another. Sparks flew in the air from the clash of sword and fan. If it had been an ordinary iron fan, it should have been cut by the heavenly creation sword imbued with internal energy. But the fan Flower Fan Elder was holding was no ordinary fan. It was the absolute weapon that made Flower Fan Elder who he is today, and moreover, Flower Fan Elder's lifelong internal energy was not to be underestimated. Flower Fan Elder's martial arts can clearly be considered a notch below Saigon's. But that's in the case of a formal fight. In sudden situations, Flower Fan Elder's power to break through crises might be superior. I dislike old people, but I know well how terrifying they can be. You have to fight thinking that if you give them an opening, you'll die. Why? Because that's the same as giving your opponent an opening. Although he kept being pushed back, Flower Fan Elder was not easy to deal with. Swoosh! The fan opened and closed, showing and hiding the flower repeatedly. Each time, dazzling techniques unfolded. But as the techniques continued, his expression grew increasingly rigid. He felt that he was being pushed back little by little. Slash! Flower Fan Elder's arm was cut again. Blood splattered in all directions. It looked like a severe injury at first glance, but I could tell the wound was shallow. However, that injury greatly shook Flower Fan Elder's psyche. He had been pushed back and now he was injured again. Swoosh! Hidden weapons shot out from the fan. It was Flower Fan Elder's trump card that he had been saving. The hidden weapons that flew from the fan barely grazed my face. The price for that miss was great. Slash! My sword cut his wrist. Ugh! The first scream that burst out. The wrist muscles were deeply cut, and he dropped the fan he was holding. Slash! My following sword cut his waist. Ooh! Flower Fan Elder staggered as precariously as his desperate scream and then fell on his backside. The match was decided. Wait! Please, wait! He clutched his wrist. Blood was trickling between his fingers, and the blood flowing from his side had soaked his pants thoroughly. He should have waited for a better moment to use his hidden weapons. But in his urgency, he recklessly launched them. There's always an opening when a big attack fails. This was also why I had saved the 3 techniques of the Chuhan Sura sword technique in the midst of the chaotic battle. Spare me. If you spare me, I'll do anything. Who hired you? I'll give you twice, no, 5 times more than that person. I'll give you 5 times more, and if you kill the person who hired you, I'll give you 10 times more on top of that. I promise. Watching his desperate struggle to survive, I said languidly. You cling to life even in old age. Say what you will. I don't want to die. You asked about my employer. Who is it? My employer is already dead. You killed him in Jinan. As Flower Fan Elder was making a puzzled expression at that moment. Stab! My sword mercilessly pierced his chest. This is revenge for that child you killed. As I twisted the sword, Flower Fan Elder let out a pain-filled scream. I quickly pulled out the sword and then stabbed the other side of his chest. This is revenge for the parents. I twisted the sword again. He screamed that he was dying. Even at this moment, he couldn't let go of his attachment to life. Please, spare me. Is that old body of yours so precious? Did you want to live in luxury so badly that you even killed a child? I'll live righteously from now on. So please? I pulled out the sword that was stuck in him. Then I turned around and walked in the opposite direction. After walking about 10 steps, I turned to look at him. Flower Fan Elder staggered to his feet. Thinking I had spared his life, he bowed his head to me. Thank you. I will never forget this kindness. But my response was something he couldn't have imagined. Didn't I tell you? That if you live like that, your end won't be good. I warned you to live quietly, didn't I? He looked confused. Was it because he was facing his final moments? Or was it because those words were etched in his heart? He remembered when and from whom he had heard those words. He recalled that it was what the Martial Righteous Alliance leader had said to him long ago when he was refused entry into the Council of Elders. Those are words Cheon Hajin said to me. How do you know them? At that moment when his eyes widened, my sword cut through the air. Swish! Boom! The Three Techniques Infinite Sword was unleashed, and the space where Flower Fan Elder was standing exploded. Flower Fan Elder's body shattered into pieces and scattered. Thud, thud, thud. Unrecognizable pieces of flesh rained down along with dirt. The space itself had been completely obliterated. Clang! A small piece of metal, also unrecognizable in form, fell at my feet. It was Flower Fan Elder's fan. It too had disappeared from this world along with its owner. Go to hell. After leaving that cold remark, I turned and left. The sky was occasionally visible through the dense bamboo. Somewhere out there, a child must be sleeping in their grandmother's arms. Child, I hope your next life is a long and happy one. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Flower Fan Elder, who went out yesterday, still hasn't returned. Ma Jongsu was startled by Saigon's unexpected report. This had never happened before. If nothing else, he knew well that Flower Fan Elder was a very punctual person. Have you looked everywhere? We're currently searching with our subordinates, but he's nowhere to be seen. He must have suddenly had some business to attend to. Then suddenly, Ma Jongsu flinched. No way. As if they had already had the same thought, Saigon's expression had turned serious. Ma Jongsu sprang up from his seat. Let's go to his room. The two entered Flower Fan Elder's room. They checked the wardrobe and drawers. But Flower Fan Elder's belongings were gone. Jongyo had cleared them away on Byok Ridan's orders. He has left. After a moment of blank expression, Ma Jongsu shouted angrily. Damn it! Are you saying this old man was the one who cracked the safe? It seems so. Saigon didn't mention other possibilities. He had been quite upset with Flower Fan Elder earlier. With such clear evidence, he had no intention of taking his side. Rather, he started looking for evidence to prove that he was the culprit. On the other hand, Ma Jongsu was half in doubt. No matter what, it didn't seem likely that someone like Flower Fan Elder would risk his life for just a few 10,000 taels. At that moment, Saigon shouted. Look at this! A table on one side had been moved, and something had fallen underneath it. What's this? It's a jewel decoration that was attached to the Heavenly Creation Sword. It seems to have fallen off when he bumped into the table while leaving in a hurry. It was exactly what Byok Ridan had set aside after modifying the sword at the ironworks. Jongyo had secretly placed it here while clearing out the belongings. Rather than other direct evidence, such traces that could only be found upon careful examination would more surely frame him. If they didn't discover it, Jongyo could bring it later. The maid could say she found it in Flower Fan Elder's room while cleaning. Ma Jongsu still couldn't make a judgment. Was it clear evidence that Flower Fan Elder was the culprit, or was it meant to frame him? For now, find this old man first. Quickly. Yes. And don't breathe a word of this to anyone. Understood. Saigon hurriedly left the room. Since he was known to be very tight-lipped, there was no need to worry about that. What if Flower Fan Elder had betrayed them? If his father found out about this, the problem would become serious. Rather than being attacked by an outsider, he would become a fool who was backstabbed by his own people. Regardless of who did it, this incident needs to be resolved quietly. Ma Jongsu casually turned his head towards the window and was startled. Oh my! The mysterious woman was standing outside the window, looking in. It was especially surprising because it was right after he had told Saigon to keep this secret. You scared me, you bitch. Those words rose to his throat, but he barely held them back. After all, she was a woman his father had sent. She turned around like a ghost without saying a word and walked away. Ma Jongsu shouted irritably towards the window. It's still uncertain. Don't you dare open your mouth carelessly. Whether she heard or not, she just disappeared. Bang! Ma Jongsu slammed the window frame. Damn it! Cursed! Things kept getting more complicated. Chapter 50, There is no next time, 1. Late at night, Jong-yo came to see me. He was holding a bottle of alcohol in his hand. Would you like a drink? Sure. The fact that he, who was always so polite to me, came at this hour meant he had made up his mind. Whether to follow me or remain as the leader of Young Minor faction. He had made his decision faster than I expected, and I couldn't guess which way he had chosen. We had a light conversation while drinking. Mostly, he was the one talking, and I was listening. He told me about when he first entered the martial world. He said that when he was a little kid, a martial artist killed some bandits and saved his family. After that incident, he decided to become a martial artist. He then told me about various experiences he had gone through. By the time the bottle was empty, he finished talking about his past life. As you can see, I'm an ordinary person. No, I think I'm even a bit below average. Somehow I became the deputy leader of Young Minor faction, but I was about to be discarded, and that's when I met young Master Byok and became the leader like this. He looked straight at me and asked, "Is someone like me good enough?" I didn't say much else. You are. Lastly, I have one question. What is young Master Byok's ultimate goal? The first thing that came to mind at that question was the realm of the Mind Sword. The earnest desire to reach the realm of the Mind Sword was a pure aspiration as a martial artist. It had been a lingering indigestion in my heart and a thorn in my throat throughout my past life. Of course, there were many other things I wanted to achieve. First, if it's certain that I was assassinated, I will seek revenge. If I hadn't known, it would be one thing, but if that's the case, I'll kill them all. If those who turned their backs on Gal Sarayang after my death are related to that incident, I will punish them too. I will raise the Byok Sword clan and make it the #1 clan in the world. Of course, I want to be filial to my parents. I want to raise Guangdu and the Sword Squad to be great martial artists, and naturally, I want to bring back Gal Sarayang and Baekpyo as well. Come to think of it, there really are a lot of things I need to do. Jong-yo is asking about the ultimate goal, so I need to give one answer. What answer should I give? Then, a thought suddenly occurred to me, and I blurted it out without realizing. I want to be happy. If I achieve all the goals mentioned earlier, wouldn't I be happy? I want to be happy, and I want everyone around me to be happy too. Jong-yo, who had been staring at me blankly, burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. He soon stopped laughing and said, "I'm sorry. I was rude because the answer was so unexpected." "It's fine." "But what answer were you expecting?" "I was internally nervous, thinking you might say something like unifying the world." He had been considering me as a hidden dragon preparing for the times, so it was understandable. Speaking as someone who has already achieved world unification, I think the things I just mentioned are just as difficult as unifying the world. I'm sorry for not meeting your expectations. At my awkward response, he smiled and stood up. Jong-yo bowed deeply on the spot and said, "I greet my lord. I swear before heaven and earth that I will be loyal until death." I could tell. My answer about wanting to be happy resonated more in his heart than an answer about unifying the world would have. I firmly grasped his hands and lifted him up. "From now on, I'll consider you family. Please help this inadequate person. I'll dedicate my life to you. I, too, will prove that your choice today was the right one. I hope that I, too, can be happy along with my lord." I was glad. Initially, bringing him in wasn't that difficult. After all, I was in a position of having saved him from a crisis. But if I had emphasized that debt of gratitude and forced him in with power, I wouldn't have felt this happy. He was sincerely moved by me as a person and was sincerely trying to offer his loyalty. After Guangdu, the Minor Sword Squad, and Gongsu-chan, I had gained Jong-yo as a loyal subordinate. My relationship with them will continue to develop in the future. Their loyalty might change tomorrow, or it might never change. That loyalty could disappear with a carelessly spoken word, or it might not change even after 1,000 curses. I will form relationships with them while acknowledging this variability. With the basic premise that no human relationship is ever complete. ******. I returned home. I judged that it was time to take a brief rest and get my house in order, having pushed myself relentlessly with the Mahjongso situation. I decided to let Young Minor faction govern itself independently for the time being. Zhongyo said he was ready to hand over Young Minor faction and come under my command immediately, but that wasn't necessary, nor should it be done. I will nurture various organizations independently and then unite them at a crucial moment. I am the person who has managed the largest organization in this martial world. I had hundreds of organizations like Young Minor faction under my command. Instead, I assigned 2 tasks to Zhongyo. First, I attached a skilled spy to Mahjongsu. I told him to contact me immediately if he noticed any movement related to Song Warren in particular. Secondly, I introduced carrier pigeons for a close communication system with Zhongyo. Of course, we didn't keep the carrier pigeons directly in our household. We set up a small contact office near the house. Zhongyo also set up a contact office outside Young Minor faction, not inside. This was a precaution because Mahjongsu's people were inside the Young Minor faction. Also, I had the warriors at the contact office selected from trustworthy people. After all, information-related aspects are extremely important in martial arts organizations. I added one more safety measure. We established a code that only Zhongyo and I could understand. The Martial Righteous Alliance has various code systems. From simple codes to high-level codes that are impossible for outsiders to decode. Of course, I used the highest grade code. It was a modified version of the code used in the Hall of Righteousness. It was a code that others could never decipher. Zhongyo was once again impressed to see that I knew such an advanced code system. This is how you need to give trust to your subordinates. Even if later on they might live with conflicted emotions, unsure whether it's affection or loyalty, now is the time to constantly demonstrate ability. I told Guangdu about the death of Flower Fan Elder. Ah. You did really well. Guangdu rejoiced as if his own enemy had been avenged. Are you that happy? Of course. The child and the elder must be greatly rejoicing in the other world. I really wish I could contact that landowner who left his hometown. To tell him that his enemy has been avenged. They'll find out someday. Do you think so? Of course. How could they forget about that incident? As long as they don't forget, they'll learn about it, and they'll think that justice still exists in the martial world. I'd like to tell them right away, but that would put them in danger. Everything finding its rightful place will have to come later. I really hope that's the case. Guangdu. Yes, young master. Become stronger. It was a single phrase that implied many things, and I believe Guangdu understood its meaning properly. In the afternoon, I watched the Sword Squad members training for the first time in a while. Is everyone working hard? Yes. Their answer was full of spirit, and their eyes were sparkling. With individual training, Sword Squad training, and even flying dagger technique training added, it must be very tiring, but throughout the training, not one of them showed any sign of fatigue. Anyone who teaches would feel the same. You naturally become more invested in those who truly want to work hard. If you all strive this hard, I too will do my best. Thanks to their diligent training so far, everyone had achieved significant results. Especially the achievements of Guanhui and a few others were so remarkable that I praised them in front of everyone. After the training, Guanhui stayed behind. Master, I have a question about my martial arts. The lad was full of enthusiasm to learn. You could tell just by the fact that he was asking about martial arts again right after sweating through such hard training. When I use this move, I keep feeling like my balance is shaking. He then demonstrated the move to me. After watching his demonstration, I said, "It's because the force in your legs is wrong. It's a move where you step forward with your right foot, but you're actually putting more force on your left foot, aren't you?" Yes, that's right. I was taught that balance is the most important in this move. I thought my right foot would naturally have more force, so I'm consciously putting more force on my left foot. That's actually disrupting your balance. Naturally put more force on your right foot, but compensate for the balance with the movement of your upper body. Is that allowed? Is there a reason it shouldn't be? I was taught that the lower body should always maintain the center. The martial art the lad had learned was the hall-instructed sword art, one, mainly taught in martial arts academies. It's not a sword technique passed down through family lineages, but a publicly available sword technique that can be learned in various martial arts academies throughout the Central Plains. The sword technique itself was excellent. That's why it's taught in many martial arts academies. On the other hand, the hall-instructed sword art had certain limitations. After all, being a sword technique taught to government officials, it was somewhat bound by formalities. Guan Huai had learned the sword technique properly. Because he learned it properly, he will definitely feel its limitations later. There was no need to tell him about that yet. There was still a long, long way to go even within this formality. In martial arts, there is no concept of always. Martial arts can and must always change. Ah, I understand. Thank you, Master. In fact, it's a statement he can't fully understand. Because beyond the literal meaning of what I said, there's another deep essence of martial arts wisdom contained in those words. I could see traces of hard training in his hands, roughened with calluses. He was investing his efforts over time, believing my words like ironclad truth. So I gave him the opposite advice from before. Why? Yes, Master. It's okay to go a little slower. It's good to work hard, but if you overdo it, it can have the opposite effect. Like your move just now. I'll keep that in mind. Guan Huai bowed and ran off. Despite my advice, he will continue to work hard. I thought that perhaps those words were what I needed to hear myself. Even if the 23-year-old Guan Huai didn't know, I did. That there are things in this world that can only be seen when you go slowly. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. I don't feel good about this collaboration. Baek Jung, too, the internal manager of Shandong Merchant Association, said worriedly. You should cancel it even now. Go Sun Guyong, the company's president, had his eyes closed, his body sunk into a comfortable chair made of fur. Baek Jung had been observing Go Sun Guyong for a long time, so he could tell that Go Sun Guyong was not pleased with his direct words. But if it were any other matter, he would have just withdrawn, but this time he couldn't. Based on what we've seen so far, Ma Zhongsu is a dangerous man. President, I beg you, please don't make the mistake of inviting a tiger to chase away a wolf. Go Sun Guyong opened his eyes at Baek Jung's earnest words. We're about to be devoured by the wolf right now. What does it matter if a tiger enters the room? Baek Jung was startled. Is the situation that serious? Indeed. Hebei Merchant Association and Suk clan leader are taking fierce revenge for the last incident. Shandong Merchant Association had tried to expand into Hebei by bringing in Yang minor faction. There were several clashes in the process, and Hebei Merchant Association and Suk clan leader were greatly offended. When they found out that we failed to bring in Song clan manor last time, they're pushing us even harder. Hebei Merchant Association was cornering Shandong Merchant Association. They were pushing so hard, even at the cost of their own losses, that Shandong Merchant Association's financial losses were not insignificant. There's no place where rumors spread faster than the business world. As rumors spread that Shandong Merchant Association was in crisis, money lines were cut off even more, and even existing business partners were turning their backs. Baek Jung wore a serious expression. As the manager in charge of internal affairs, he hadn't realized that the external situation had deteriorated so much. But even so, we can't raise such a large sum of 100,000 taels right away. Why on earth did you promise to collaborate with them? I plan to borrow money from the night merchants. 3. Baek Jung was shocked for a moment. Night merchants refer to those who engage in secret and clandestine transactions, meaning merchants of the night. They were mainly people who lent money at high interest rates or led mergers between companies on commission. It's easy to borrow money from them. But it was an extremely dangerous transaction. Not only were the interest rates high, but if you couldn't repay the money, they were the kind of people who would do anything to get their money back. The night merchants are truly dangerous beings. I know. No, you don't know. If you knew, you wouldn't think of getting involved with them. Baek Jung continued earnestly. The swordsmen of the night merchants are truly frightening. It's not because their martial arts are exceptional that they're scary. They are cruel and vicious. Once they hold a grudge, they never forget it for life. There are countless people who have disappeared after getting involved with them. Moreover, rumors say that the night merchant swordsmen use secret weapons that are banned in the martial world to deal with martial artists. But even such words couldn't change Go Sun Guyong's mind. Borrow 100,000 taels from them. President. Go Sun Guyong closed his eyes gently and sank back into the chair. Anyway, we have wolves and tigers prowling in the room, don't we? It won't get any worse if a snake crawls in. Chapter 51, There is no next time. 2. Rumors began to spread in Shandong. Everyone started to get agitated by the rumor that Ma Zhongsu was joining hands with the Shandong Merchant Association. If he not only builds a martial arts academy but also joins hands with a large trading company, his influence in Shandong will grow even greater. My father and mother, who heard the rumor, were also very worried. I can't figure out what their intentions are. That's right. I'm worried they might be trying to swallow up all of Shandong. Knowing the inside story, I was calm. Don't worry too much. Our Shandong isn't such an easy place to take over, is it? I couldn't tell them that this collaboration was both sides' desperate struggle. A last-ditch effort at a dead end. After meeting my parents, I went straight to find Gong Su-chan. I came to ask you one thing. Sharp as he was, he had already guessed why I came. Is it about the Shandong Merchant Association? That's right. Tell me everything you know about the Shandong Merchant Association. You must have heard the recent rumors about Ma Zhongsu. Because of those rumors, the Hebei Merchant Association, which wasn't on good terms with the Shandong Merchant Association, is extremely tense. It seemed the name Heavenly Blade sect carried some intimidation. Gong Su-chan told me about the internal affairs of the Shandong Merchant Association. The situation was much worse than I thought. What do you think is the Shandong Merchant Association's weakness, Chief Gong? Despite the sudden question, the answer came quickly. Go Sun Guyong. Unexpectedly, he pointed to the president of Shandong Merchant Association. He has the ambition to grow the Shandong Merchant Association into the #1 trading company in the Central Plains. That's why he's been aggressively expanding the business. But because of that, he's also accumulated a lot of debt and made many enemies. A prime example would be Hebei Merchant Association and Suk clan leader. In the past, he was certainly a man capable of dreaming such dreams. But time has passed, and the business world has changed a lot. It's become faster, newer, younger. But unfortunately, he remains stuck in the past. Gong Su-chan brought up an unexpected topic. Oh, and there's a rumor that Shandong Merchant Association agreed to give Ma Zhongsu 100,000 taels in exchange for the collaboration. 100,000 taels. It was a larger sum than I thought. Can they raise that money when Shandong Merchant Association is in difficulty? They can't raise it on their own. Then? I think they'll draw money from the night merchants. Night merchants? I knew that organization too. They're the ones who move dark money. I've heard they're very dangerous people. That's right. They're the kind of people you'd better not deal with if possible. But right now, they're the only ones who will lend money to Shandong Merchant Association. That was very helpful. Thank you. It's nothing. I could have asked Gong Su-chan to find out more about Shandong Merchant Association and the night merchants. But there was no need to assign such a dangerous task to him. Because now I have someone who does this kind of work best. I immediately sent a carrier pigeon to Zhongyou. The message asked him to find out in detail how Shandong Merchant Association was raising funds, and if they were drawing money from the night merchants, when, where, and how they were borrowing the money. I added an order to find out no matter how much money it cost. The answer came 3 days later. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. 2 days after that, Ma Zhongsu suddenly came to see me. It was an unannounced visit, but I knew he would come. Zhongyou had reported his movements 1 step ahead. Ha ha ha. Brother, have you been well? We had never agreed to call each other brothers, but he treated me like a younger brother. Have you been well? I've been fine. Indeed, he looked to be in a very good mood. It must be because he was set to receive 100,000 taels from the Shandong Merchant Association. What brings you here? I dropped by on my way. You're welcome. Come in. Let's not do that. Let's go out. Pardon? Didn't we promise before? That you'd show me your fiancée. By now, her injury should have healed. Give this older brother a chance to see Shandong's greatest beauty. At a time when he should be preoccupied with the flower fan elder incident, he hadn't forgotten about Song Warren even in this situation. I could feel that this wasn't just simple lust. If it were, he would have found an excuse to meet Song Warren directly. But coming to me and asking to go together means he wants to take her from me. He wants to enjoy the process. He probably thinks it's easier now that talks of breaking off the engagement have come up. What a disgusting bastard. Come on, let's go. She'll be happy if you visit. He pulled at my sleeve insistently. But to visit so suddenly like this. When I hesitated, Saigon, who was standing next to him, glared at me coldly. I pretended to flinch, as if cowed by his intimidation. All right. Let's go together. As I was leaving the house, pretending to give in reluctantly, a warrior rushed over and handed a letter to Saigon. Saigon's expression changed dramatically after checking the contents of the letter. He whispered to Ma Jongsu again. An urgent message has come from the Shandong Merchant Association. What's the matter? Saigon spoke coldly, looking at me. Young Master Biok, please go inside and wait for a moment. Understood. I closed the door and went inside. With my excellent hearing, even though they tried to whisper, their somewhat excited conversation was clearly audible word for word. Shandong Merchant Association says they can't send the promised 100,000 taels. What? Why on earth not? It seems the money was robbed by someone while being transported last night. What kind of idiotic talk is that? Ma Jongsu yelled angrily. There was no use in getting angry at Saigon, but he couldn't calm down and spoke in an agitated voice. How could they handle things like this? I don't know the details, but it seems the Shandong Merchant Association is also in a state of emergency now. Inside the door, I was smiling sweetly. Those 100,000 taels are in my possession. I robbed it while the manager and guard warriors of the Shandong Merchant Association were returning after borrowing money from the night merchants. Of course, I wore a human skin mask and a face covering, and I didn't kill the company's warriors. I was able to subdue them sufficiently without seriously injuring them. They had mobilized their most trusted and skilled people from the company, but they were no match for me. Moreover, due to the nature of the task, they couldn't mobilize a large number, which made it even easier. All of this was possible because of accurate transaction information. Zhong Yo said he spent 20,000 taels to buy this information. It was an enormous amount for a single piece of information. But it was worth it. 100,000 taels. Moreover, the money provided by the night merchants was in small denomination notes that left no trace. In other words, it's money I can use as I please. Of course, I won't use this money right away. I plan to use it when I've dealt with Ma Jongsu's affairs and judged that there won't be any aftermath. It was truly killing 3 birds with 1 stone. I felt no burden because it was dirty money from the night merchants. I had humiliated the Shandong Merchant Association, and Ma Jongsu had fallen into a very difficult situation. I could hear the low conversation continuing outside. It must be that old man's doing. Surely you don't mean Flower Fan Elder? Who else would dare to do such a thing? Only someone who knows our situation best could have done this. This crazy old man. Saigon spoke carefully. It's time we need help from the main family. Aren't there people who can help the young master? But that woman is monitoring our every move. In other words, this incident will be reported directly to father. As you know, the Shandong affair is a test. A test to select the successor. My smile behind the door grew deeper. Yes, that greedy bastard wouldn't want to be the first to fail that test. Yes, keep being greedy. That's essential for my plan to succeed. We must handle this with our own hands. Anyway, it seems you should return for now. You need to meet with the Shandong Merchant Association again and discuss this matter. If you can't send the payment to Jinan within a few days, the contract for establishing the martial arts academy will be nullified. Damn it! Ma Jongsu's regret-filled sigh sounded too sweet to my ears. Soon after, there was a knock on the door from outside. When I opened the door and went out, Ma Jongsu said, "It seems I have to return due to an urgent matter." "Ah, I see. It's a shame, but please come again next time." "I will." Ma Jongsu hurried back with Saigon. I was smiling as I watched their retreating figures. The moment I heard that the Shandong Merchant Association had brought in the night merchants, a plan occurred to me. A way to cleanly dispose of Ma Jongsu. Robbing their money was the beginning of that plan. It's a pity I couldn't tell Ma Jongsu this. There is no next time for you. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Ma Jongsu contacted the Shandong Merchant Association again. Go Sun Guyong said he would try to raise money again, but he couldn't do it right away. Not understanding other circumstances, Go Sun Guyong even asked for help. He said he would definitely raise the money, so they should continue with the collaboration. Ma Jongsu coldly told him to bring the money first if he wanted to continue, and left. Stupid bastards. But once the downward spiral began, it seemed endless. Saigon entered with a gloomy expression and delivered the news they had been dreading. The side in charge of the Martial Arts Academy construction has notified us that they're cancelling the contract. They dared to refuse my request to postpone the payment date. Yes, that's right. These sons of bitches must be crazy to die. Ma Jongsu's eyes rolled with murderous intent. It seems someone has spread a rumor. What? Saigon hesitated to answer. Answer me quickly. There's a rumor that the young master has gone bankrupt. What? It seemed like something was about to be smashed. But Ma Jongsu didn't get angry. The moment he heard that rumor, he realized something. I see. I know who's doing this is. Spreading a rumor might seem as simple as going around to a few inns and spreading the word, but realistically, it wasn't that simple. To spread a single rumor, many people need to work organizationally over a long period of time. Especially when a rumor that shouldn't spread does spread. Flower Fan Elder can't be this organized and bold. It must be the work of one of my damned siblings. Now the incomprehensible betrayal of Flower Fan Elder made sense. He must have been recruited by one of the other successor candidates. No, he might have approached him already recruited from the start. Saigon agreed with this opinion. I think so too. The reason for bringing in an outsider like Flower Fan Elder was honestly because he couldn't trust the people inside. But now he had been properly backstabbed. Bang! In the end, another innocent desk was smashed. Ma Jongsu wondered if he had ever felt this helpless in his life. He had lived harboring hatred. He thought he was quite smart. But he wasn't. He had just been used like an idiot. What dominated Ma Jongsu now was murderous intent. The thought of finding and killing Flower Fan Elder, the thought of finding and killing the person who recruited him. But that would have to come later. First, he had to resolve this situation. Right, whatever the process, I just need to produce results. If he could succeed in this difficult situation, it might even make him look better in his father's eyes. Go and get the money right now. How am I supposed to do that? Damn it. Get it somehow. Don't just stand there like an idiot giving me bad news, earn your keep. Steal it or extort it, just do it now. Although Saigon was in charge of his protection, considering his age and position within the Heavenly Blade sect, such verbal abuse was crossing the line. Understood. Saigon quietly left the room. Asterisk. Saigon was drinking at an inn. It was already late, and the customers who had been drinking had left one by one, leaving him alone in the inn. He was greatly angered by Ma Jongsu's earlier behavior, but on the other hand, he could understand it. He was backed into a corner as far as he could go. He had been going around all afternoon trying to raise money. He went to merchant groups other than the Shandong Merchant Association. But it seemed the bad rumors had spread enough that everyone refused with various excuses. Some even lied, saying they weren't available. He really wanted to kill them all. Damn merchant bastards. It seems that when money is involved, even life isn't precious. In fact, he had no knack for handling such matters. Having lived a life of wielding a sword, how could he persuade merchants in this situation? He usually didn't drink much, but today he was overindulging. Bring more alcohol here. Yes. The waiter walked towards the kitchen while yawning. Being in a bad mood, even that sight was unpleasant. He wanted to go and beat him up. One should always choose the right side. He had failed. He had chosen Ma Jongsu, who had relatively the least talent. At that time, he thought like this. If Ma Jongsu succeeded, he would get all the credit. Since there were fewer competitors, he hoped to rise to the position of second-in-command in one go. Because of that, he had done all sorts of dirty work cleaning up after Ma Jongsu. Damn it. He emptied the last of his remaining alcohol. He could tolerate lack of ability. He knew about it from the start. But when he was humiliated like that, it was hard to endure. He had believed that Ma Jongsu's viciousness would be the driving force to overcome other competitors, but when cornered, that viciousness turned into vulgarity. However, he had no intention of betraying Ma Jongsu. Who would accept him now? You bastard! Aren't you bringing the alcohol quickly? The moment he turned his head irritably. Whack! The moment he was punched in the face, he knew. It was the same fist that had hit him in front of the safe back then. Chapter 52, Closer, 1. A carriage entered the estate. The people in the carriage were Go Sungayong, the owner of Shandong Merchant Association, and Baek Jung, the manager. As the carriage stopped, Baek Jung said with a fearful face, "President, it's dangerous to meet him directly. Please leave it to me and wait here." "It's fine." Go Sungayong opened the carriage door and got out. Baek Jung hurriedly followed. This place they had come to with just an old coachman and no guard warriors was the headquarters of the night merchants. Night merchants existed all over the Central Plains. Even in this Shandong province, there were night merchants in every major city. It was unknown whether they were one organization or different organizations under the same name. There were many rumors about the night merchants. From rumors that they were an organization ruled by a single person, to speculations that several people joined forces to rule, to stories that different organizations operated under the single name of night merchants. Anyway, there was one common point. No matter which region's night merchants, they were extremely cruel and vicious, and therefore terrifying entities. In any case, Go Sungayong had borrowed money from this night merchant, which was the largest in Shandong. A man with an ordinary appearance guided the two to a room. He had a comfortable impression, but thinking that he was a swordsman of the night merchants, they couldn't even meet his eyes. In the room, a middle-aged man in his 50s was waiting. Since he was wearing a human skin mask, his age or first impression wasn't important. The man introduced himself as Yeon, Night Sky, 1. TSK, you lost 100,000 taels without even using it. That's right. Go Sungayong was desperate. It was either die or faint. No, he was already in a state of having fainted and woken up several times. Please help me. How? Find the lost money for me. Ha. It's not like finding a child's lost toy. How could that be easy? If I can't find that money, my company will go bankrupt. Then you won't get your money back. At that moment, the smile disappeared from Yeon's face. He already looked somewhat dry due to wearing the human skin mask, but when he became serious, his face became very frightening. His polite attitude also changed completely. Hey, do we look easy to you? His voice lowered, and a thick killing intent gushed out. Even in this situation, Go Sungayong didn't back down. How could that be? I'm just stating the reality. Shut up. Before I rip your mouth apart. The killing intent that flew out was enough to make the skin tingle, so Go Sungayong closed his mouth. Yeon glared coldly and warned. Let me tell you what happens if you don't repay my money. First, I'll throw your wife to a bunch of beggars. She'll have to take 100 beggars a day. I'll sell your daughter to a brothel, and your son will have to board a fishing boat. Unless he jumps into the sea from exhaustion, he'll never be able to get off for life. As for you, I'll gouge out your eyes, cut out your tongue, sever the tendons in your limbs, and throw you into the marketplace to beg. I'll have that guy next to you drag you around. Go Sungayong and Baek Jung's faces turned pale. So if you don't want to repay, then don't. Consider it paying 100,000 taels for a good show. Go Sungayong swallowed hard and said with a fearful face. I know who stole the money. Then go and find it. I'm saying it's someone I can't handle with my own power. Who is it? Ma Jongsu. At that moment, Yeon's eyes lit up. Isn't he the one who was supposed to receive that 100,000 taels from you? It's a ploy to pocket twice the money. Evidence? Ma Jongsu has people capable of robbing my money. There are many skilled martial artists in the world, that's not enough. No. It must be him. Who else would dare to target money meant for a collaboration with the Heavenly Blade sect? Yeon nodded as if acknowledging that point, and Go Sungayong quickly said, if you find the money, I'll consider it as borrowing 3 more tenths. I'll consider it as borrowing 130,000 taels. So please find it for me. You're asking us to mess with the Heavenly Blade sect. And if we get destroyed in the process, you don't have to repay the money. Is that right? That's not what I mean. Yeon smiled. It was a smile that felt even scarier than when he was angry. He spoke in the gentle tone he had used when they first met. Go back and figure out how to repay the money. You're not the type to crumble so easily, are you? That's why I lent you the money. Go. You'll regret it if you forget what I said. Go Sungayong left the room with slumped shoulders. When they left the estate in the carriage, Baek Jung, who had been terrified, finally opened his mouth. "Didn't I tell you it would be useless?" But Go Sun-gyeong had already calmed down. The desperate and fearful look from earlier had disappeared. I had already anticipated that he wouldn't be understanding of my situation. "Then why did you go?" "He will find out that I lost the money." Maybe he already knew. Anyway, he'll soon realize that I won't be able to repay the money. I went to buy time before he does what he said earlier. If he knows that Ma Jong-soo has the money, he'll look for ways to recover it. Because he's greedy. Thanks to that, I buy time. Ah. Only then did Baek Jung admire Go Sun-gyeong. Although things hadn't been going well lately, he was still his master who had been through thick and thin. "Do you really believe it was their doing?" Go Sun-gyeong sighed and turned his gaze to the window. "If not them, then who else?" Meanwhile, a man entered the room where the two had left. He was a swordsman named Ji Cheol, Hye Cheon's most cherished subordinate. "Someone has informed us of the whereabouts of the person who stole the 100,000 taels." "Who on earth?" "They sent a letter without revealing themselves." "What should we do?" Hye Cheon pondered for a while. But the conclusion was already set. 100,000 taels was a large enough sum to take any risk. Go and check it out. But be fully prepared. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. When Saigon regained consciousness, he was in a clearing in an unfamiliar forest. The first doubt that came to mind. Why didn't they kill me? If, as he felt, the person who attacked him this time was the same one who had attacked him at the safe, it was truly incomprehensible. Was it because he had drunk too much? Or was it because of the blow he received yesterday? His head was throbbing and he felt dizzy. "I need to get out of here first." Saigon staggered as he tried to walk. At that moment, men appeared in the area. There were about 10 men, and they had a strange atmosphere about them. They all carried swords, but they didn't seem like formal martial artists. However, they didn't look like bandits either. They weren't ronin, nor were they assassins. There was a kind of unpleasant stickiness about them that was different from being fierce or rough. Saigon grabbed his sword handle and asked quietly, "Who are you?" One of the men stepped forward. It was Ji Cheol, the man who had reported to Hye Cheon earlier. "Night merchants." He introduced himself with just one word. Saigon could feel it. The other party took considerable pride in the fact that he was a warrior of the night merchants. Also, that he hoped to intimidate the opponent with that name. Of course, Saigon wasn't the type to go along with that intention. To him, the night merchants were just trash. Do you know who I am?" "I know you're someone bold enough to dare touch the night merchant's money." At this point, there should have been an immediate reaction. "What nonsense are you talking about?" But at this moment, Saigon didn't judge the situation properly. It was because he believed that Flower Fan Elder had stolen the money. He thought that the other party had found out that Flower Fan Elder had stolen the money and came looking for him. Since Flower Fan Elder and he were on the same side, it was natural for them to suspect him. Saigon spoke in a slightly softened tone. "I understand why you're doing this, but it's a misunderstanding." Of course, to Ji Cheol's eyes, it looked like he was admitting guilt. "If there's a misunderstanding, we should clear it up. Come on, explain." With the other party responding like this, Saigon was at a loss for words. He needed to talk about Flower Fan Elder's betrayal, but he had no reason to tell these people about it, nor did he want to. Saigon became furious. The urge to kill these trash-like bastards in one stroke welled up. But thinking about yesterday's incident with Ma Jong-soo, he felt he couldn't make such a rash move. He tried to endure, but then... "Let's see your pockets." "What? Are you saying you want to search my body?" "We're in the same line of work. We need to have something to report to our superiors. If you're innocent, it shouldn't be a difficult thing, right?" Saigon's anger rose to the top of his head. "You bastards, if you don't find money on me, I'll break all your necks." The next moment, Saigon's action of reaching into his chest suddenly stopped. Slowly, his hand came out holding a bundle of promissory notes. Ji Cheol said mockingly, "You have a lot of money. This money is not mine." "Of course it's not. It's ours," Saigon said irritably. "Damn it. This is a trap. How did you know I was here?" "Someone must have informed you." "That bastard is trying to frame me." Otherwise, would I have taken out the money like an idiot? You should have enough brains to figure that out, right? Ji Yuchil nodded. All right, I'll believe you. But you'll have to come with us. Explain directly to our elder. Saigon felt it. Whether they believed his words or not, if he went with them, he would fall into great trouble. His head was throbbing from the hangover, and his heart was full of various angers. The conclusion he reached was this: let's kill them all first and think later. The moment he made up his mind, he drew his sword and rushed towards them. The swordsmen drew their swords and blocked in front of Ji Yuchil. Slash! Saigon cut down the man at the very front. The second man fell in succession. Just as he was about to cut down the third man, something was launched from Ji Yuchil's hand. Bang! With an ear-splitting explosion, a hidden weapon was fired. He barely managed to deflect it by swinging his sword. It was powerful enough that he almost lost his grip on the sword. But the hidden weapon wasn't just one. Another hidden weapon fired by another man was launched. Bang! He twisted his body, but this time he couldn't dodge perfectly. Thud! Something sharp lodged into his shoulder. Damn! Saigon leaped and swung his sword. Swish! Thud! He pierced the chest of the man who had fired the hidden weapon. The man who was stabbed by the sword grabbed it desperately. Damn it! He twisted and pulled out the sword. The man's fingers were severed. But it didn't come out completely. He felt that strength wasn't entering his arm. Poison! The hidden weapon that had hit his shoulder earlier was coated with poison. Whoosh! To make matters worse, a third hidden weapon was fired. Thud! Thud! The hidden weapon hit Saigon's back squarely. Ah! Saigon screamed and swung his sword wildly. Another man's head was cut off. But his movements gradually slowed down. Thud! A sword attacking from behind penetrated Saigon's back and protruded out. Blood gushed out in spurts. To such pathetic bastards! He swung his sword, but there was no one to be hit by that sword. Instead, he couldn't avoid the men's swords. Thud! 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 Unable to endure any longer, Saigon fell down dead. This was a result that could never have happened in a normal fight. Saigon's body condition wasn't normal, and he didn't know that the opponents would use such terrifying hidden weapons. What they used were projectile-type hidden weapons that were banned in the martial world. And they were even coated with poison. Ji Yuchil irritably stabbed his sword into the corpse. You son of a bitch! How dare you swing your sword at us? Thud! 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 Ji Yuchil and the surviving men mutilated the already dead corpse. I was watching this scene from afar with cold eyes. It was the moment of cutting off both wings of Ma Zhongsu. I didn't bring in the night merchants just to kill Saigon. If I had wanted to kill him, I would have done it myself. There was another reason for bringing them in. I intended to make it look like Ma Zhongsu was killed by them by entangling him with the night merchants. I don't care whether the night merchants suffer retaliation from the Heavenly Blade sect or not. The night merchants are an organization that should disappear from this martial world anyway. If the Heavenly Blade sect doesn't take revenge, they will eventually disappear by my hand. Now the remaining issue was that mysterious woman. She had been observing the entire situation from beginning to end. In a situation where Flower Fan Elder was known to have betrayed, if she had any intention of protecting Saigon, she wouldn't have left him alone. But she showed no interest in them at all. Here are two curious points. Setting aside who she is for now. First, even if Ma Zhongsu is in a situation where he might die, will she really just observe? And second, just how skilled is she? Chapter 53, Closer, 2. The headquarters of the night merchants was in an uproar. It was belatedly discovered that the identity tag of the man Ji Yuchil had killed revealed him to be Saigon of the Heavenly Blade sect. You crazy bastard! How could you have killed him? Yeon thundered, and Ji Yuchil pleaded his innocence. I didn't intend to kill him either. But what could I do when he came at us with his eyes rolled back? Ask the boys. Even so, you son of a bitch. Ji Yuchil quickly stepped back, fearing he might get slapped. Yeon sighed and worried. Of all people, it had to be the Heavenly Blade sect. Don't worry. No one witnessed it. Besides, didn't we completely dispose of his corpse? Someone knows about this fact. What? Who on earth saw it? The one who informed us of that man's whereabouts. Ah. That was why Yeon was so serious. The fact that someone knows about this. That was an even more serious problem than killing Saigon. We've been properly caught by him. I'm sorry. Ji Cheol, finally realizing the seriousness of the situation, lowered his head deeply. Yeon didn't scold him any further. This incident wasn't Ji Cheol's responsibility. It was his own responsibility for sending him to a place he shouldn't have sent him to in the first place. The person who informed about Saigon's whereabouts used his hand to eliminate him. Why on earth? The fact that a bundle of promissory notes was found on Saigon meant that the one who contacted them was the very person who stole the notes in the first place. If it's someone capable of intercepting Shandong Merchant Association's money and setting up such a trap, couldn't they have eliminated Saigon without borrowing his hand? But why? Ji Cheol quickly asked, as if he had suddenly thought of something. Could it be that they're targeting us? You bastard, you finally thought of it. Of course that's the case. I'll destroy whoever it is. To do that, you need to find out who it is first. Something must have happened related to Ma Jongsu. Investigate Ma Jongsu discreetly. But is it okay to mess with them? Given the situation, we need to take active measures. If we just stay put, we'll end up getting beaten like idiots without even knowing who did it. Anyway, start with Ma Jongsu. Yes, leave it to me. Ji Cheol went outside. Yeon walked to the window. Something he didn't know about was definitely happening. For the first time in a long while, his heart was racing and his flesh was trembling. But it didn't feel so bad. There was always a great reward when resolving dangerous situations. *****. Ma Jongsu was pacing back and forth in his room frantically. Even the next day, Saigon didn't return. At first, he was angry at him. How could he leave over such a trivial matter? What a childish rebellion. It was truly pathetic. Even by the afternoon, he hadn't returned. That's when he started to worry a bit. He tried to shake off his anxiety, telling himself that Saigon wasn't someone who could be easily dealt with. In the process, another innocent desk was broken. He couldn't even remember how many times it had been broken. When Saigon didn't return even by evening, Ma Jongsu thought he must be dead. After all, he wasn't the type to leave without a word just because he was angry. Ma Jongsu felt the blood in his entire body turn cold. I'll wring their necks. No matter what you bastards do, I won't back down. The targets of his anger were his siblings. He firmly believed it was the doing of one of them. The motive, the ability, he couldn't think of anyone else. He didn't want to lose to those bastards since childhood. They were siblings who had tormented him terribly since he was young because his mother was a concubine. No, they weren't siblings, they were sons of bitches. You'll see how I take my revenge. At that moment, someone was watching him from the half-open door. It was that mysterious woman. Hey! Despite Ma Jongsu's angry shout, the woman remained expressionless as usual. Report everything. Every single thing without missing anything. How I turn this situation around by myself. Understand? When the woman didn't answer, he yelled angrily. Do you understand? In the end, the woman left without giving any answer. Arrogant bitch. Emotionless wooden bitch. When I become the successor, I'll wring your neck first. All those words were heard by the woman walking down the corridor through the open door. At least the part about her being an emotionless wooden block was wrong. Because coldness was added to the woman's expressionless face after hearing those words. *****. The next day, as soon as he opened his eyes, Ma Jongsu went to find Jong Yo. He couldn't just stay put after even Saigon was taken out. What brings you here? I have an urgent matter to discuss with my alliance leader. Despite being inwardly tense at his sudden visit, Jong Yo greeted him as calmly as possible. Please speak. I think you've already heard the rumors. The alliance with the Shandong Merchant Association has fallen through. Several unfortunate events overlapped. But I believe young Master Ma will overcome this well. That's why I'm here. Faction leader Jong needs to help me. What do you mean? I can't stop the martial arts academy establishment plan like this. Please help me, alliance leader. Jong Yo couldn't answer readily. What could the helper mean? First, it would mean asking for money and also asking to borrow the power of young minor faction. I'm worried that our insignificant sect might only cause trouble if we get involved in young Master Ma's great undertaking. Although he politely refused, Ma Zhongsu didn't back down. Isn't young minor faction truly the #1 sect in Shandong? If faction leader Zhong helps me this time, I will never forget this favor. Ma Zhongsu was in a position where he had to establish the martial arts academy to lay the foundation for the Heavenly Blade sect in Shandong. If he couldn't accomplish this, he would beautifully fail the successor test. He just needed to get over this hurdle. Although the contract for establishing the martial arts academy was cancelled, if he could raise the money, he could proceed again. It was cancelled because of the rumor that he went bankrupt, so there would be no problem if he had the money. The reason he didn't touch young minor faction at first was because there was no need to. It was also because of Flower Fan Elder's advice that it wouldn't look good to outsiders if he asked for help while staying at young minor faction. But now the situation had changed. If young minor faction helped him get over this hurdle, he would pass the first test. So when a new test is given, he will do it more splendidly. He will gather new subordinates. He was hit this time, so next time he will backstab his competitors. Not just make them stagger, but a backstab so hard their heads will fly off. I understand what you're saying. Would you give me some time to think? All right. But don't keep me waiting too long. I'll come see you soon. As he was leaving the room, Ma Zhongsu inwardly sneered. Ha! You might want to pull out somehow, but it won't be easy. He intended to use everything he could use. When all the juice is squeezed out, he plans to chew even the shell and throw it away. Just wait and see, I won't just die. How do you think I've come this far? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. After sending Ma Zhongsu away, Zhong Yo came to my room. He relayed Ma Zhongsu's request and then said worriedly, "What should we do?" It was certainly a worrying matter. Once we start helping that greedy bastard, he will squander young minor faction's assets like a sponge absorbing water. He intends to sacrifice young minor faction for his own greed. It seems so. Zhong Yo looked like he wanted to curse out loud. So I did it for him. That dirty, petty bastard, you want to slap him and then destroy him, don't you? I want to stomp him into the ground. Only then did he look like his anger was subsiding. Don't worry, his end is not far off. I've already made a big plan to eliminate him by entangling him with the night merchants. There are just a few detailed issues remaining. One of them was the mysterious woman. This actually turned out well. What are you planning to do? I said with a knowing smile. If he wants to gather his own firewood, we should light the fire for him. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The next day, I went to see Ma Zhongsu together with Zhong Yo. Zhong Yo calmly brought up the prepared words. As you know, it hasn't been long since I became the faction leader. Shamefully, I haven't yet fully taken control of this faction just yet. So I can't completely step away from various affairs of the faction. Therefore, I'd like to introduce someone who can assist you in my place. Ma Zhongsu scrutinized me carefully. But because I was wearing a human skin mask and had completely changed my voice, he couldn't recognize me. I had changed to a top-grade mask. Unless one was a mask expert, it was impossible to recognize. It was very expensive, but considering the importance of the task, it was an aspect that couldn't be neglected. He's my most cherished warrior. He's skilled and intelligent, so he'll be of great help to young Master Ma. At Zhong Yo's introduction, I bowed my head and greeted. Pleased to meet you. My name is Gal Pyo. It was an alias combining Gal Sarayang's surname and Baek Pyo's name. I thought this was an excellent opportunity to learn about that woman. There's a saying in the martial world. Keep your friends close, and your enemies closer. As displeasure flashed across Ma Zhongsu's face, Zhong Yo quickly said. Of course, our faction will also provide active financial support. Don't worry. Only after hearing that money would be actively supported did Ma Zhongsu's expression soften. Fine. If faction leader Zhong recommends someone this highly, I can trust him. Thank you for your trust. Zhong Yo looked at me and said sternly. He's a valuable person, so serve him well. There must be absolutely no mistakes. I bowed my head respectfully to Zhong Yo and answered. Yes, I will obey your command. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. I was to stay in the room where Flower Fan Elder had stayed. After unpacking briefly and going out, I met that woman in the corridor. She was walking towards this direction from the end of the corridor. I stood in front of the door and watched her approach. I was quite tense, but I didn't hide that tension. It would be strange not to be too tense when meeting someone for the first time. I was controlling my body perfectly. I was showing just the right amount of tension that a person named Galpio would show. Seen up close, her face wasn't cute or glamorous. Was it because of the cold feeling without any makeup? She gave off a somewhat androgynous impression, which rather emitted a strange charm. Our eyes met. Eyes without any emotion. I had seen such eyes a long time ago. The elites raised in organizations of the demonic path, or in cult organizations. They are raised from infancy to carry out missions without any emotion. The eyes of those terrible killing machines I saw back then looked like that. Could this woman be of that kind? Ma Bongji raised this woman? If so, when on earth did he start planning this? Judging by the woman's age, he must have started raising her at least 20 years ago. Considering Ma Bongji's past appearance, it was hard to believe. Or is it just eyes that give such an impression? I couldn't know everything about a person just from their eyes. It could be eyes that coincidentally gave a similar impression. When she came close enough, I greeted her first. I am Galpio. She turned her head slightly to look at me. But that was all. She didn't stop walking and just passed by silently. Hey! When someone greets you, you should greet back. What's your name? The woman disappeared around the corner. I saw her again that night. I went out for a walk because I couldn't sleep, and she was standing by the pond. Was it because of the moonlight overflowing green around the pond? Or was it because she was looking down at the pond so vacantly? I felt loneliness from her. The loneliness I felt from her wasn't the kind of wholesome loneliness that made my heart ache just by looking at it and made me want to embrace her. An empty loneliness. It was a hollow loneliness that couldn't even be comforted because there was nothing there. I watched that scene for a long time from a distance before going inside. I couldn't tell whether she noticed that I was watching her or not. I started observing her from the next day. Chapter 54, Closer, 3. She woke up early in the morning. She went to bed late and woke up early, to the point where I wondered if she even slept at all. I even speculated that she might be spending the short night in meditation instead of sleeping. After waking up early, she went up the hill behind and came back down. It seemed she was doing some training. When I asked the subordinates through Zhong Yo, they said she hadn't missed her morning training even once since she arrived here. From that fact, I could infer one important thing. She wasn't protecting Ma Zhongsu. If she was trying to protect his safety, she would have guarded him. But she wasn't guarding, she was observing. Just like I was observing her. For me, who had decided to eliminate Ma Zhongsu, this couldn't be more fortunate. I considered following her to see what kind of training she did. But I decided against it. There was no worse situation than having her discover my existence, so I didn't take any unnecessary risks. In the end, I could only roughly guess about her martial arts. If I could reveal my chi, I could more accurately gauge her level, but right now I was thoroughly concealing myself. I could only guess that she might use bare-handed techniques since she didn't carry any weapons. However, judging from her gait and chi, she was quite skilled. Perhaps similar to or slightly below Saigon. Considering her age, that would be an impressive level of skill. Her martial arts skills and her aura. My initial feeling that she might be a secret weapon raised in some secret organization was getting stronger. Anyway, whoever she was, I needed to use her. She would have to report back that Ma Zhongsu was eliminated by the hands of the night merchants. In that sense, her role was very important. The next night, I was standing by the pond looking into it. Beautiful white lotuses shimmered in the water, and the scent of lotus flowers wafted in on the autumn breeze. There were a few carp in the pond, but perhaps because it was late at night, they were hardly moving. Why was she staring at this so intently? Did she want to save the carp? Or did she want to kill them? Suddenly, I saw the moon reflected in the water. It occurred to me that perhaps she wasn't looking at the carp, but at this moon. After watching for a while, I turned around and saw her watching me from afar in front of the building. Normally, I thought she would just turn and go back inside, but she slowly walked towards me. She walked over and stood beside me. Without greeting, as if I wasn't there, she looked down at the pond. Isn't that stranger? At my words, she glanced at me. I'm asking if it's not strange to treat someone as if they don't exist when they're clearly here. She looked back at the pond and said, "Not at all." She spoke in such a small voice that an ordinary person wouldn't have heard it. But I heard it clearly. It was her first words. This time, I spoke briefly. "I suppose." She turned to look at me. Her expression seemed to ask why I said "I suppose." I mean, life is life whether you live this way or that way, so maybe it's more comfortable to live alone without getting entangled with people. She turned her head back towards the pond. "Won't you tell me your name?" After looking at the lotus for a moment, she suddenly said, "Is a name that important?" She said it as if talking to herself, but it was the first time she spoke properly. The person is more important than the name, I guess. But you need to have something to call them, right? You can't just say, "Hey, you all like that." She didn't answer, and I spoke as if giving up. "Fine. You don't even pretend to know me anyway, so what does the name matter? Whether I call you Pond or Carp, you're still you anyway." She continued to look at the pond expressionlessly. Somehow, her loneliness didn't feel unpleasant. Rather, I felt a sense of kinship. Perhaps because I realized that my past life was also in deep loneliness. "I'm sorry if I said something unnecessary." At my apology, her lips moved slightly. It seemed like she was hesitating to say something. Just then, someone called me from afar. "Warrior gal." Ma Jongsu was calling me with a hand gesture in front of the building. With his appearance, the woman's hesitation disappeared. "Yes." After answering loudly, I ran towards him. Ma Jongsu asked with a stern face, "What were you talking about with her?" "We didn't talk about anything special." I asked for her name, but she didn't answer. "Didn't I tell you?" "Don't pay attention to that woman." There was irritation in his voice. "I'm sorry. We just met by chance. Come to my room later." "Yes." Ma Jongsu went into the building. When I turned my head again, she had already disappeared. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. When I went to Ma Jongsu's room, he was drinking alone. "Come here and have a drink." His earlier irritable attitude had softened a bit. I accepted the drink he offered. "Drink it all in one go." "Yes." I drank the alcohol without hesitation. While drinking, I realized there was one more thing I needed to resolve as quickly as possible. It was related to poison. In my previous life, I had reached the realm of immunity to all poisons. Because of that, I could freely eat and drink anything, whether it was alcohol or food. But Byok Ri Dan's body wasn't like that. To be immune to all poisons, one's constitution itself needs to change. It's not about blocking the poison with qi when it enters, but rather the poison having no effect at all. Having become immune to all poisons before, I naturally knew how to achieve it. First, you need a powerful poison. It's not enough to use poisons that can be bought in the market, it needs to be something with very strong toxicity. Even with powerful poisons, artificially manufactured ones won't work. In other words, even the formless poison, said to be the most powerful in the martial world, won't work because it's artificially made by humans. It needs to be a natural poison like a venomous snake's inner core or a poisonous plant, and importantly, it must be alive at the time of ingestion. Of course, that alone isn't enough. You need an antidote that can neutralize it at the critical moment. You need to be poisoned almost to the point of death and then neutralize it at the critical moment. It's not an easy task at all because if you make the slightest mistake, you could die even after taking the antidote. Another depressing fact is that even if you survive like this, you don't become immune to all poisons. It's a very low probability event that occurs due to the complex interaction of various factors. You need bold courage and heavenly luck. Since I have the experience of achieving immunity to all poisons once, I plan to try it again if I can gather the necessary materials. But finding such a poison and antidote itself is not easy, to the point where it could be called a miracle. Faction leader Zhong praised you a lot. I'm still lacking in many ways. Come, have another drink. I drank another glass of alcohol. He brought up that woman from earlier first. I understand that you're interested in women because you're young. But find a good woman, not one like her. She must have been a very bad woman. I asked jokingly with a smile, but Ma Jongsu answered seriously. More than that. She's as dangerous as a snake. As you know, a man can ruin his life if he meets the wrong woman. Yes, I understand. As he spoke, I saw irritation flash across his face. I could clearly see the relationship between the two. I didn't bring up any more talk about her. There was no need to draw attention to that matter. Eventually, Ma Jongsu brought up the reason he called me. I need some money. I know that the sect provided financial support. Jongyo had initially given him 10,000 taels. I told him to give generously since we planned to recover it all anyway. That money isn't enough. How much do you need? 100,000 taels. I pretended to be shocked. Then, as if I knew nothing, I asked again. By when do you need it? The sooner the better. I need to get it within 5 days at the latest. 100,000 taels within 5 days. I made an expression of serious contemplation, then spoke carefully. This part was crucial. There is one way. What is it? Have you heard of the night merchants? Night merchants? Of course I know them. Aren't they the ones who lend money at high interest rates? I heard they're very vicious people. That's right. They're people you shouldn't associate with if possible. I told him exactly as it was. In fact, I emphasized it a bit more. They're dirty, petty, and vicious bastards. Once they hold a grudge, they'll definitely kill their target. They're the kind who use hidden weapons banned in the martial world without hesitation. The Martial Righteous Alliance had banned the use of projectile hidden weapons, saying it tarnished the honor of martial artists. Poisoned hidden weapons were also banned. If caught using them, one would be imprisoned in the Thunder Prison. But there are always those in the martial world who violate the Alliance's rules. The night merchants are one of those types. Are you saying I should borrow money from such people? It's the only way to get 100,000 taels within 5 days. There was a moment of silence. Do they have such a large sum of 100,000 taels? From what I've heard, the night merchants have amassed enormous wealth through secret dealings with local merchant groups. They should be able to mobilize 100,000 taels easily. All right. Let's say they have the money as you say. Will they readily lend such a large sum of 100,000 taels? I don't even have collateral. Why don't you have collateral? What do you mean? You yourself are the best collateral, young Master Ma. I'm the collateral. You are the successor of the Heavenly Blade sect. What could be more certain collateral than that? A look of satisfaction flashed across Ma Jongsu's face. At a time like this when he's backed into a corner, such a tickling compliment must be like a welcome rain to him. Nevertheless, Ma Jongsu hesitated. It seemed he had some aversion to the existence of the night merchants. At times like this, you shouldn't push. Rather, taking a step back is more effective. I'm sorry, I seem to have said something unnecessary. Please forget what I said. No. It's certainly a method worth considering. After all, it was the only way for him, cornered as he was, to get the money within just a few days. Can you connect with them? Of course. Ma Jongsu, who had been pondering, emptied his glass and said, Contact them. Yes. I drained the remaining alcohol smoothly. It's regrettable, but I hadn't yet pulled out the tube I had inserted in him. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. A piece of news flew into the night merchants. We've received word that Ma Jongsu wants to visit us. At Yeon's words, Jiu Cheol was surprised. Could it be that he's figured out we killed Saigon? Maybe. But even so, they hadn't expected Ma Jongsu to come visit directly like this. You should avoid him for now. If I avoid him, I'll take responsibility and meet him myself. Idiot. What could you do? I'm sorry. Yeon yelled angrily, but inwardly he was pleased. Jiu Cheol might be hot-tempered and impatient, but at least he was loyal to him. Then what should we do? They couldn't just run away in fear when they weren't even sure why he was coming. They couldn't abandon the foundation they had built over a long time, and they couldn't show such a weak image to their subordinates. The swordsmen of the night merchants are rough and cruel. To rule over such men as subordinates, you need to show viciousness and guts. Even if it means dying. Yeon steeled his eyes, preparing for a fight. Gather all the tough and skilled guys. Prepare as many hidden weapons as possible. If they try anything funny, we'll have to kill them all. Running away comes after that. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The next day, we rode a carriage towards the headquarters of the night merchants. The people in the carriage were me and Ma Jongsu. The mysterious woman saw us leave but didn't accompany us. I thought she might follow separately. I wondered if she might have applied some kind of tracking incense on Ma Jongsu. Will they really lend me the money? Ma Jongsu seemed uneasy. If Saigon and Flower Fan Elder were with him, he would have been arrogant, but naturally he'd be intimidated in the current situation. You need to approach them strongly. Strongly? The characteristic of those who live in the shadows is that they're weak to the strong and strong to the weak. Although the night merchants have a bad reputation in the martial world, their essence is no different from the ruffians running gambling dens. Moreover, where we're going is just a night merchant in a rural part of Shandong. There's absolutely no reason for you to be afraid. Ma Jongso seemed to gain courage from my words. Having you with me is very reassuring. You flatter me. Please leave this matter entirely to me. I showed strong determination, putting strength into my eyes. I'll do that. Ma Jongsu would think this was fortunate. After all, if things go wrong, he could just dump the responsibility on me and get away. And so, the carriage arrived at the headquarters of the night merchants.